Joe, I've got to say, I heard you say something interesting the other day.
Well, you just violated rule number 1 of the Hounds podcast, Dan.
What's that?
I begin it by saying, Dan, but oh well.
Yeah, here we are.
What,
Times are changing. Times are changing a little bit.
yeah, when I partner with the bad boy of Firewood, who's he to follow convention? He'll just make up
Right.
his own rules.
You never know what's going to
All right.
happen here. The other day, I happened to manage to stay awake until the end of your video, and I heard you. I heard you refer and mention something about one day looking back upon the time we're in right now, and you refer to it as the golden age of firewood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I made that up. And you liked it?
Yeah, it kind of intrigued my my thoughts and sparked a little interest in these times.
I do believe that we, well, like I said, 50 years from now, we're going to look back upon this era, and this is going to be the golden age, the golden era of the firewood industry. I think that we are at a crossroads, or we've made a pivot. And, I see the firewood industry. I still see a lot of the things that we do as antiquated, old-fashioned, rooted in a reality that doesn't exist anymore, and that we're being pulled and driven into the 21st century. Yeah, that's what I see.
Yeah.
I think that's happens relatively soon too, because I remember not too long ago, and I remember so this has been as long as I've been married, 25 years ago, when we were at the county fair. There was a timber wolf. It was like a processor, and there was a splitter and a conveyor. And that was, to me, that was the entire firewood universe, was just that one brand.
Yeah.
Was there other brands? I guess there was, but I didn't know what they were. I didn't subscribe to magazines, or I had no exposure to anything other than Timberwolf. There was a dealer down in Mahoning County that sold them. And this was before, Matt Timmons owned the company.
Yeah.
So this predates him. Yeah. And that was it. And then from there, it was chainsaws and the splitters that you could buy at Home Depot.
Right. Yeah, I've got to agree with you. I think we are definitely at a crossroads, and I think these last few years, I want to say maybe five-ish years, have kind of brought firewood and the whole firewood industry community, I don't know, into a whole new time, I guess. I don't know. It's weird it's hard to put into words, but there's definitely, I feel, a shift that's happening. We are a part of.
I think it has largely been driven, though, by YouTube. Maybe not just YouTube as YouTube, but as in videos, social media.
Social media,
This explosion of videos. People, even if they're a big channel or just a person just bought a new machine, they put a video of it up, where you start seeing this big universe of, wow, there's different machines there. That was my first takeaway, was, wow, there's other machines other than Timberwolf. I thought that's all there was. And there's all of these machines out there, and enter the the grizzled YouTube influencer, and they start showing these things off. Or, for instance, me, I got started. I'd never thought I was an influencer. I had just bought a Yappa 365, and I'm running it on my channel, And then people see it, that it's for real. And I think that the marketing that you get out of a video like that, it's not even comparable to print media.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't think this is specific to the firewood industry either. I think just the social media and all of that in general has brought light to a lot of different industries and a lot of different areas of, just things that people do. And I don't know. I mean, I've been seeing stuff that, I would never have thought of, that even products existed in these different niches. And so I think
Yeah.
the explosion of social media with the combination of Firewood, I don't know what it is, but I definitely think we are heading in a different direction from the past.
Yeah, so I am going to half agree with you on that because yes, I think all of the industries have benefited to some degree to social media, but I think that an industry like firewood has seen a much bigger, I don't know, exponential improvement or
Yes.
development as an industry as a whole. And I think there's a number of reasons why. I think the first one is, and I have said this before, if you look at other industries, the big ones that are established, automobiles, appliances, tractors, it seems to me, and this is where I become critical of the world that we live in, that I think that we have one of the biggest generations of lazy corporate leadership that this country has ever seen. And it's driven because you have these industries that have just made tons of money, that the way that they make money now is that they buy politicians, they buy tax cuts, and they no longer innovate, they no longer develop talent, they don't invest in communities. They buy politicians and
Yep.
export their production offshore.
Yeah.
And so the firewood industry is not like that. So if there is corporate ownership, it's still pretty closely held. you know, you have, you think of the obvious ones, with Andrew Easton, with Chris Wolf, Matt Timmons at Timberwolf. These guys aren't multi-billionaires, and they are still involved where the rubber meets the road, and they are pushing each other with innovation, with improving, and they're fighting and clawing for their market share that you don't see in other industries like cars, for crying out loud. These guys don't innovate anymore. All they do is they copy each other's designs. They're scared to take a risk. Why do all the cars look alike? Why do all the trucks look alike? Why do all the airplanes look alike? Why do all the appliances look alike? There are very few people out there that are sticking it out there, taking a chance, taking a risk, innovating. They don't. They are just playing safe with their money. They're playing safe with their brand. And the next thing you know, everyone's cars, you can't tell you can't tell a Ford Fusion apart from a Kia, whatever it is. They all look alike,
Yeah.
and they all perform alike. And that's what you don't see it, Dan, in the firewood industry. I think that is what used to happen in other industries. When cars were exciting. I'm thinking of the 57 Chevy, the,
There you go. Yeah. Yep. The old.
the 64 and a half Mustang, for crying out loud. And that, the way the car industry now makes exciting cars is they copy old designs. These retro looks, the Dodge Charger, the Ford Mustang, they're just copying the way cars used
Just,
to
yep.
look
They're just bringing back
because,
what worked before.
yeah, because their money is going towards buying politicians. And that is not what you see in the firewood industry. And that's why I think, this is the way capitalism is supposed to be. And we're reaping the benefits. That's what I see as the golden era. I think we are experiencing something awesome.
What you're saying is that the firewood industry for the longest time has been like the caveman hit a stone and made a spark and lit a fire, and then all right, we're good now. We don't have to do anything more. And we waited
Yeah.
around for decades and decades, and now the innovation is there, the competition is there to drive more innovation, and I
Yes.
think it's all around from not only how firewood is produced, but I see it in how firewood is consumed. Just look at, in my case, the tabletop fire pits. Where were those
Yeah.
5 years ago? That now require
Yeah.
smaller wood.
Why did that take so long?
Yeah. Or the new wood stoves that burn efficiently and burn less wood and cleaner.
Yeah.
there's just all around the industry, like you said, it's finally getting caught up to the 21st century.
Yeah. Who would have ever thunk of a computer controlled firewood processor?
Yeah.
you know? And this is an industry that the majority of us got started with a Poulin and a pickup. And, it's the industry for everyone. It's the industry for the common man. And I am just saying that uh, for the common woman. Everyone's welcome. Come on
Yep.
in and have at it. And now that you're starting to see these machines, which are really cool, I keep waiting to let's innovate with a stacking machine. That would be really, really cool. But I think that maybe this pie in the sky belief I have might be a reality one day.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And speaking of big new machines, the video that I was able to make it through watching showed a big innovative machine
Yeah,
that you saw before many of us saw.
yeah, that was something. So that technology is not new, but what Yappa, well, TP Silva has done, like the ones that I've seen, the logs, boy, they're just some of these, like the Posh and that Pezzolato, some of these machines, they fill up an entire warehouse to do a very simple task. It's almost like a Rube Goldberg design, you know. And I watched them. This one, it cuts the round and it goes into this big arm, and the arm swings all the way around to put it into a chute, and it rolls down on its side through the knife horizontally. And what Yap had done, I think they just simplified it. It's vertical. The logs lay on their face, so it doesn't matter if one's too long or too short, and then it advances through that X knife.
Yeah.
And when I was there and saw it in person, I I seriously I couldn't take my eyes off of it. I noticed I was just standing there staring at it. It was fascinating. It's a lot of fun.
And do you think so? Like that's part of where I kind of just mentioned before how, we're getting these stoves that require shorter pieces of wood, which I think in the European countries have kind of been a standard for the last I don't know how long. And so
Yeah.
that type of machine puts out a product that's meant for that market. Do you think like that machine is going to be able to, or do you think the US market can handle machines like that?
Yeah, so that machine can cut any length.
Okay.
So splitting 16-inch would not be a problem. It's just over there, that's what they cut it at. So I don't know. That I hate to say I hate to be proud to be an American, to think that, our industry is being driven by trends in Europe. Okay. But I mean, that's really what you're looking at here with, I'm getting stuck on like the V pack. So that V pack had a head on it that bagged 12-inch wood, and they were working to make one so it would bag 16-inch wood. But then, a lot of the turns and the radius of it had to be reworked. So it just wasn't as easy as changing the size head on that machine. But the young man Kyle, who's using it out in Colorado, I had went out to visit him and did a video there. He had learned that he drove more sales by going to a 12-inch stick because it fit on the shelves more. It was packed easier in the trucks, and it just made financial sense for him to do it. But I don't know. I think that you know like these new EPA stoves, the phase out, whatever that's called, where you get rid of your old Franklin stove and put in one of these new style stoves. They seem to take smaller wood, but I think our industry is still diffuse. It's still driven by the individual, and if they have a open hearth fireplace, they'll cut their wood the length that they want. But as for the commercialization of it, I don't know. I think that you could start seeing a migration to shorter firewood sticks.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that those kind of trends that, if we want to call it the European model, I just see more and more of them because, just with innovation, like with the stoves, and even I think Kyle out there had mentioned that in the Colorado state parks, the fire rings. were smaller. So that's why the 12-inch would fit better inside the fire rings than 16-inch. So I don't know. I think there's, like we mentioned, I think we're in a pivoting point and we're heading in a different
Yeah.
direction with firewood.
Well, also too, it just seems to me this whole 16-inch thing and cords and 3 rows of 8, you know, it just seems arbitrary. And I don't know, why does it have to be like that, you know?
Yeah, nobody
And
knows what
and
they
I've
are
been
anyway.
I know I'm full-time firewood for like the last 7 years and I still get confused.
Yep.
I struggle with numbers to begin with, but I still got to like, I just sold a third of a cord the other day and priced it as a quarter just because I get confused
Yep.
sometimes. My wife would say more than
Yeah,
sometimes.
I was gonna say the minute you wake up till the minute you go to sleep.
Yeah. But you know what, Dan? So that X machine was awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
And you should go down through the comments of that video because there's a lot of people that, you know, that felt the same way and they're excited for it. But then there's also a few comments about future shock or dread,
Oh
or
yeah.
you know, they see that this machine could lead and disrupt the industry, and it doesn't become the industry of the people anymore.
Right. That
Yeah,
that fear
and
that should you hold on to the past or grab on to the new?
yeah, well, I respectfully disagreed with them. And I think that's largely because I think the firewood industry is too diffuse, but it's also too localized. You know, it doesn't, except for like these bundles and stuff that get trucked across the country and all, there's not wood loses its value when it's shipped.
Yeah.
Um, bulk, I guess. You know, that's why people that deliver firewood, they don't want to go long distances. And for people who are buying it, you don't need to have someone deliver it from out of your area because you could probably find 10 other people right down the road from you that sell it. But in this case here, what makes this new style splitter so cool is the size log it can take. You know, some of these big logs that would just go to rot, and then they're low grade where they're not going to go to the mill to be cut into boards, and they're too big for anyone to mess with. You know, to cut them, to buck them, and split them with by yourself because you'll kill yourself if one of those
Yeah.
rounds fell over on top of you.
just
Yeah,
to
so
yeah,
here's a
just to move
machine
them
that can.
around.
Here's a machine. Yeah, here's a machine that can do them, man. And gosh, how productive that thing was is just amazing. How quick that pile got big. Yeah, that was something. Yeah, but a lot of people, you know, they didn't like it because of that.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. When you're dealing with a 30-inch round of firewood, you get a lot of pieces out of it, and that's
Oh,
where I was just like, "Holy crap, that is huge!" Because when I
yeah,
and then the other thing I was impressed with um, from the Yappa's online video that I saw was just the size of the log deck, the live deck they have to load that thing
yeah.
up. Holy mollies, big.
Yeah, and I can speak from experience with the live deck that I use. And you know, the max log I deal with is 16-inch and I rarely get one that big. The challenge is when they double feed and you wind up with two in the trough, you know, and then it becomes a hassle because you got to really muscle that log around to get it
Mm,
off the trough so that you can feed one. So I noticed that condition looks like it's been fixed with that live deck because it's got that huge separator with a large gap
yep.
in it. You know, if you noticed, it was like staggered and it had those blocks that would come up from underneath it and pull one out. So
Yeah.
that is really cool. That's the reason they do that, is to avoid that double feeding. Because if you double fed two logs like that, you're, you're
Good
gonna
luck.
have,
Yeah.
yeah,
Shut down.
you're gonna need some equipment to get one of them out of there.
So do you think with the resistance you kind of saw with some of your comments on stuff like this, do you think it's just because people think of firewood as it's not broke, so we don't need to fix it, and they're set in their old ways and
Yeah,
resist
I think
change?
so. I think so. I think there's a lot that goes on there. I think that firewood has that emotional connection, and probably that's what makes it so special. So when people make comments like that, I think they're making that because they care about, what firewood means to them. But I think you're also too. That's what I'm saying with the firewood industry. It is now being mechanized to a degree that you haven't seen before,
Right.
like other industries that have already dealt with it. Maybe that's why the motorheads yearn for the days of the big block Chevy and the you know
Yes,
the
indeed.
the 351 Windsor, where you can build it with a carburetor, and now it's all computerized, and I don't know, none of this stuff makes any sense to
Yep.
me. Uh, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of really cool cars out there. But now with the firewood industry, I think maybe you're dealing with that same, I don't know, offense to
The
your
hesitation. Yeah.
yeah, to the way things used to be, and I don't know, like firewood is one of these things with a connection to the past. But that's the way I see it, though, at least. And maybe the Yapa X firewood factory is a symptom of what the entire industry is going through right now with, I mean, what the heck? I mean, we got steel driven, hydraulically driven steel, splitting wood.
Yeah.
What else? What else could you ask for in life, huh?
Yeah. I know how. I mean, I think about my dad when he like 2 vehicles ago when he bought his truck. He special ordered it to not have a digital radio. Like he wanted knobs. He wanted, he wanted all the old school things. And now, most recently, he bought a Maverick, which is a hybrid, gas and battery. And he's got
Yeah.
all these digital displays now. He was showing me this the other weekend. He's showing me how he can watch how many miles to the gallon he's getting. So now he's like gone
Oh
full
wow.
the other way. Like now he's all into the digital displays.
If
But
you
it's that
can't beat
whole,
them, join them. Huh?
yeah, it's that whole, I think, idea of once you experience it and once you see what this change means, I think it's a lot
Yeah,
more easier to embrace.
like air conditioning and cell phones, huh?
Yes.
The automatic transmission, and
Yeah,
yeah,
all these things I think are
yeah,
coming.
that is, uh, yes, I totally agree with all that, and I feel it too. I keep using cars as the example, but I think too that's where you start seeing what I had said, that we got the laziest generation of corporate leadership, because corporations are driven top down, and we too often blame the employees or the workers, if the car's not right or if the car's lame and stuff, and it's the workers execute the game plan. So
There you
that's
go.
what I see. It's corporate leadership, and that is what you don't see in the firewood industry. I mean, how can we leave out Logox, for crying out loud? That is the perfect example. Talk about innovation, talk about driving change. And we saw the timber ox at the International Firewood Expo. I mean, that thing is slick.
Yeah, there
That
you
that
go.
is that is changing firewood for the homeowner, for the hobbyist.
Ooh, there it is. We had to get it in. The word
Yeah,
of the year was just hit. But I agree. Yeah, when at the International Firewood Expo, Logox unveiled a new, I guess what would be kind of like a big box store splitter, completely redesigned, completely
yeah,
different from what you are used to
and bet
seeing.
and better.
Yes.
Yeah, uh huh. Yeah. So that is okay. Those are all the positive things that I see. Now that's where I always this always takes a pivot on one of our podcasts. When, for instance, the marketing or the way we sell firewood, and then you get the bundles, and then you get these just old fashioned and incorrect comments about about selling packaged firewood, and it's
Yeah.
just then that's why I think, gosh, we got so much farther to go.
We've made progress, but yes, there is a long ways to go from just
Yeah,
what people think of firewood. Like they only think of big chunks heating a house inefficiently.
right. Yeah, you remember our one? episode, we interviewed Harry Watt
Yes.
from, he had just retired from the University of North Carolina. No. North Carolina State University. He was a wood scientist. He was talking about how his dad worked the fireplace growing up, or their wood stove, by putting the biggest green round of wood he could find in his box and choking everything down. Then he would go to bed thinking that this was a great idea.
Yep.
And yeah,
Yep.
but now we know that that is not a great idea. So
No.
yeah, yeah. I still think though, I hope academia sees this building wave with the wood, the new technologies and wood stove, the more productive firewood machines, and that we can start getting some meaningful, scientifically based research on, the optimization of firewood
Yes.
through, the best way to harvest it or the best way to cut it. Maybe a shorter way helps with its seasoning. I don't know. And with the best way to season it, by species and all, and all of that stuff. Because I think that we're going to eventually start seeing computer controlled stoves, if they don't already exist,
I would agree.
where, where it could measure the moisture content and then start adjusting the flue and your intakes and everything all by itself. Yeah.
Airflow control, all that stuff, just, dialed in to get every bit of heat out of that stick of wood that it can efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just exciting right now too, Dan, because then you think about, what does next year bring?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
What will next year bring? And you know that these companies, the ones that we've already mentioned, that these guys, when they're out mowing the grass, their little rusty wheels are grinding, and they're thinking, you know what, if we were to do this, this would be pretty cool,
Well, and not only
Yeah.
what next year will bring, hey, in a couple weeks, if you're at the Paul Bunyan show, you might see something new, improved, that you haven't seen before right there.
Yeah, very, very, very possible. And I know one thing that I will see at the Paul Bunyan show, and that's you, Dan from Back 40 Firewood.
And I'll see you, Joe, from Ohio Woodburner. Maybe.
Yeah, it's just down the road from me.
Unless you're hiding out
I'll walk.
stuck in one of those food lines.
Yeah. That would be an innovation to see. More food trucks. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, Dan, this was fun, and it's exciting all at the same time.
Yes,
I like it.
It is. It is very an interesting time to be in. And I definitely think the firewood industry is something that we can say, watch this space.
Yeah, I like that. Watch this. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. All righty. Well, Dan, thank you for breaking tradition today and beginning the podcast. And how about let's strike up the band, however, with our traditional Woodhound music.
There you go. I thought you were going to say thank you for being able to stay awake through one of my videos. But because that's sometimes the challenge for me to do during my videos.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. But all right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in and making the Woodhounds the #1 firewood podcast in the world.
Yeah, and regardless of the streaming service that you listen to us, would you please consider rating us and probably giving us a 5-star? We'd greatly appreciate it. Okay, so Dan, how about this? Stay
innovative
and enjoy.
I don't even know where you're going with that.
I don't even know either. I'm just challenging you right now.
Enjoy the golden era we are in.
I like it. All right, and have
a great day.